What's good with it in the hood with it? Welcome back to the Collective Clips, where you already know we get it in, right? In a menudo style and direct fashion, you guys see the thumbnail. So before we get into the content of the day, please hit that like and subscribe button. Put your notification bells on all so that way you're directed in the direction of all the dope content that I'm kicking all week long. And of course, the notification bells, ding, ding, and ling, 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 ling. Hit those motherfuckers one time. So that way they don't bamboozle you or burn you on the content that I'm dropping, man. It seems like that's been happening a lot lately. But I appreciate all the support I'm getting regardless. We're going to struggle. We're going to strive. We're going to strive to struggle, man. It just is what it is. Now, I wanted to talk about the skinheads. One of the most dangerous and vicious and vile groups I've ever come across. Oi, these guys are different. You know, when you think about white boys incarcerated, you think about the Woods. You know, people like Wes Watson, you know, who was a Wood. But the skins, that whole movement is something totally different. You know, they are true believers in their craft. They are true believers in what they got going on. That's a fact. That's a heavy fact, you know, and it weighs heavy on the shoulders of many because people automatically assume that there's a lot of hatred and there's a lot of animosity when it comes to the skins. But quietly as it's kept, everything that I've ever seen that I've noticed, most of the willings and dealings had been amongst their own people. You know, you'll see a lot of Woods incarcerated and the big, you know, mystery about the Woods, or the big thing that's always out there about the Woods, is that, you know, a lot of these guys are not racist. A lot of these guys don't have hate in their heart towards different ethnicities, different peoples. And they don't. You know, there's a lot of Woods, white boys, that actually get incarcerated and have fucked with, you know, maybe they have a black co-defendant, or they fuck with Mexicans heavy on the streets, or they got a Mexican baby mama or black baby mama. A lot of these guys they were bumping Mac Dre and Mobb Deep, and they were doing their thing, but they get incarcerated. And such is the case when you get incarcerated as a white boy. You will become a Wood. You will function with your own people, or you're going to get done dirty by your own people. It's the way it is. There is no choice. You have no choice in the matter. You can't decide one day to kick it here and kick it there. Now, if you're from a black gang, a traditional black gang, being the Crips or Bloods, or Norteño or Sureño, then you get embraced by your gente. And then the Woods and the white boys, the skins, will basically back up off of you. They consider their hands washed of you. You're not their people. You're not even considered white. But at the end of the day, you know, you will become a target. You will have it a little bit harder than others, just because if something kicks off, something goes down with that prospective group, they're going to get off on you. You're going to be one of their main targets because they want to set an example. Basically, you chose up with the wrong side and you turned your back on your people. That's how they feel. It's very racial. It's very racial in prison. And that's because that's the way it's always been. That's the way they want it to be. But at the end of the day, as long as you stick to your own and you function with your own gente, you can't go wrong. You know, I'm sorry that you like to bump fucking AP9 on the unders. That's on you, homie. You know what I mean? It's all Black Sabbath and Guns N' Roses from here on out. And that's just the way it's going to be. But the skinheads move differently. A lot of these guys didn't just become skinheads in prison. They didn't adapt to that fact. They didn't do that because they stick with their race. They do it because it's a belief. It's something that they're involved in from the streets. And we can sit down and break down the whole skinhead belief system and where it really stems from. And, you know, there was even black skinheads. But that's quietly as it's kept. I'm talking about the movement that we see more traditionally, right? Which is the white supremacist type skinheads. Now, the story I wanted to tell is a story of Chomos, right? That actually, you know, felt that because they were deep, you know, on this yard or in this particular prison, that they were going to start making noise, that they were going to come together and they were going to be flamboyant and floss their bullshit. And the skinheads weren't playing that. The skinheads actually butchered these guys. So there was a couple fellas, man, that used to sit in the day room at a table and draw. And when I say draw, I mean these guys could draw good, man. I remember walking by their table. I never talked to them or associated with them because I was always under the assumption, man, that something was wrong with them. You could just feel that vibe. You could feel that something was dirty in the game when it came to these two cats. But they were bigger white boys. And I noticed that they didn't function with the skinheads or the Woods. They kind of just did their own thing. Now, in this prison out of state where I was locked up, there was a little bit of everybody. So it was like that. You really didn't, unless it was your own people, you didn't ask anyone for their own paper, for their paperwork. You didn't go check other people or worry about their situation. It wasn't like California where if someone discovers someone's fucking garbage homes, they're going to push up like, hey, if you don't remove them, we're going to remove all. It's nothing like that. In this place, it was pretty much fucking, there was a little bit of everybody, man, sprinkled in. You just had to be real smooth with who you function with and who you kicked it with, because you can get caught up in a fucking very bad situation. You didn't want that, right? So anyways, these two guys used to draw good. I used to walk past their table in the day room, and I used to see them drawing. It was always these two guys. They were Sallies. They always stuck together. They had each other's back. And quietly as it's kept, this big skin gets there. And right off the top, tatted back, a lot of hate, symbolization, swastikas, Nazi paraphernalia. What he was rocking, Holmes. He didn't hide it. He displayed it quite vehemently to anyone who would look. It was all out there, kind of like the guy on the thumbnail. He was skinhead. But he wasn't tripping on anyone. I seen him interact with some blacks. I seen him interact with a whole lot of Mexicanos. We once had words as a good, good gestures. A Cuba, good morning, Holmes, buenos dias. A good morning, brother. One of those. But he moved differently. He definitely was a skin, and there was probably about 6 or 7 of them in this building. There was probably about 15 woods in this building. And the woods were basically fragmented into different groups. You had a group called the Irish Prides that were over there. And then you had a different group, man, that kicked it. And then kind of a couple of non-affiliates that were just woods that were willing to jump for their people if they had to, but didn't really want to. Them type of dudes, they're just trying to get on some meth and shit. But this skinhead kicked it with his people. His people were very structured. That's one thing I noticed about the skinheads in this particular place, and even in the California prison system, is they're very structured. They're very methodical in their ways of thinking. They move as one unit. That's one thing about the skinheads, man. You're not going to dictate the program or tell them what to do. No one is. They pretty much take over a yard when it comes to the white folks, right? When it comes to the woods take kind of a back seat and let the skinheads, I call them the Nazis, right? The skinheads drive the carro. And that's just how it's going to be. That's usually how it is in most places. I know Susanville, Lassen Yard, 3 Yard, had a heavy presence of skinheads. They were probably the deepest I ever seen. There was a lot of them, man. There was a lot of them, and they definitely wiggled and moved smooth with the purpose. Now, in this place, these two guys, come to find out, they had bad cases, right? They both were in. They were both molesters. They were both in on some bad charges. And I don't know the details to their charges. This is just what I heard through the grapevine. And it all checked out. You could tell by their mannerisms, the way they acted. I heard people ask them about their cases. I don't want to talk about it, right? That's the first clue in prison. When someone doesn't want to tell you what they're in for or talk about their case, I don't want to talk about it. They're always going to use the excuse, I got an appeal coming up. I've been advised not to talk about it. Yeah, appeal for what, homie? You know what I mean? You try to peel someone calzones back. That's your problem. You're a weirdo. And you pretty much can understand, the temperature on that and what it is. So you back up off them type of dudes. But like I said, these two guys have been around for a while. They've both been incarcerated 10 to 15 plus years. So they were well respected by the police. I don't know why. Maybe the cops didn't know their cases, or maybe they just didn't look quite extensively into the C file. But like I said, I was in a state where no one really cared. No one gave a fuck. So anyways, these guys are doing their thing. But this skinhead does. He comes in and automatically the whole temperature of the day room, the whole temperature of the building changes when it comes to the skins. They finally had a guy in a leadership role. He had done an extensive amount of time in the hole, so he was a seasoned vet. He was someone that was not going to function with anyone of his race that had a bad case. And there was a whole lot of them. And these two guys, they knew that. So when they seen this guy come, they knew there was a threat. You could see them talking amongst each other. And of course, I'm watching all this for myself. I'm looking at all this from an outsider's perspective because it was not my business. It didn't involve me, man. When it becomes racial and it's your own people, you have to deal with your own people. If it was someone that had a weird case, that was a northerner at that time, a northerner, we would have dealt with this swiftly, efficiently, and immediately, man. But in this case, there was none. We hope, right? But this skin comes and they're getting amongst their own, right? These two little cats or these two bigger cats. So they start to bring in other weirdos. They start to bring in other guys of similar cases and their little friends, right? And they start to get deeper and deeper. Now they have two tables full. And I'm shocked, because I didn't know we were functioning amongst these type of guys like this. It seems like everybody was coming out of the fucking bushes with weird cases. But these guys felt that they were going to push up on the skinhead, but they weren't going to do it via fucking walking up on them and getting off and handling their business as grown men. They were going to get at the police. So they dropped a kite to the cops, informing the officers, letting them know, man, hey, look, this guy right here, he's coming to stir up problems. He's going to cause trouble. We haven't had no issues here. We've been doing our own thing. No one's fucking with us. We just mind our own. We don't want our own to remind us. The skinheads are cool, but this guy right here is a threat. Of course, the cops don't care. That's on you, homie. You got a bad case. You got a bad case. Such as prison. You're going to have to deal with that. I'm sorry. The reality is, if you're a weirdo or chomo or you got a bad case, the fact is you're going to have to deal with that as a grown man. You chose to do what you chose to do, homie, and they're going to choose to do what they do. And the cops basically turned their back. Of course, these guys were scared now, but they took the initiative to go talk it out. So I remember this particular day, I could see something was going on. One thing about prison is you can feel tension. The tension is in the, it's like lightning. It's in the air, right? So these guys decide that if for no other reason, they're going to walk up on this skinhead cat. He was a big old monster too, man. They were going to run up on him basically and have a conversation. Well, one thing I know about skinheads, man, and most people know is they're not going to conversate with anyone they don't want to. That's prison. And I don't think anyone is, right? We just ain't having conversations with people that are beneath us or people we don't feel that we want to. And that's how these guys felt. And that's definitely how this guy felt. And you could tell there was something was going to go down the day. The tension was in the air. You can cut it with a knife, right? The cliche, it was something was popping, something was cracking. So these two guys walk up with a whole gaggle of fucking weirdos. I'm talking about Dungeon and Dragon players. I'm talking, they look like fucking Spike from the Gremlins and a whole bunch of Mogwais. A whole bunch of fucking Gremlins walked up. Just weirdos, pants pulled up, fucking the tongues way over here. There's one thing I can say about these weird characters, man, is they definitely wear it on their sleeve. You can tell, right? And if you can't, fuck, you got issues, man. Sometimes I guess they can fly under the radar. They look like a solid camarada or a homeboy. And then at the end of the day, you come to find out that Vato's fucking with his niece. It's happened, right? But anyways, so trip out. They walk up on the skinhead. Mistakes happen in life, right? This was definitely a mistake. And we had just got released for afternoon yard, right? So they released us for afternoon yard, and it was half can go to the yard, half can go to the day room. It was a split tier movement. So they sent the bottom tier to the yard, top tier to the day room. Then it would go vice versa. They would sell you in. They would bring the bottom tier to the day room, or top tier outside, bottom tier to the day room. That's how they did it. In this particular place, it was more like a maximum security institution type prison. But this skinhead was actually on the tier with these cats. So they got their gaggle of fucking weirdos, and they actually walked up to these skins, man. And I remember when they approached these skins and they started to talk. And the one skinhead was open to talking, right? Because he wanted to get close. He needed to get close. You got to understand, if you know for a fact in the penitentiary, man, that you're all bad or that you got some type of smut or it's just not good, it's not going in your favor, stay away, Hums. That's my advice to you. Stay the fuck away, right? But this guy opened him to getting closer and closer. And there was all these cells in the day room. So you know how the day rooms go, man. Same thing. There's a whole bunch of fucking tables. They're all welded to the floor with seats, these round seats that are welded to the floor. They're all usually metal. Some are green tables. These tables were metal. And then there's cells all the way on the bottom tier, top tier. This skinhead actually had his table right next to his cell, right? So he could drag a motherfucker in there and demolish him. And that's what happened. So what happened was this skinhead was smart. He knew that these cats were plotting something that not that they were going to take flight, but that they wanted to talk it out. They wanted to have a conversation. So as they came up, he sent a few of his homeboys to use the phones. Now the phones were behind the table. So they would be actually behind these cats that came, these weirdos. And as these two weirdos, these representatives of the weird nation, right, sat down, I could distinctly hear the skinheads say, "Keep white out your mouth. You're not white. You're no longer white, Holmes. You're not good," right? And these guys were like, "We've been here. We're just trying to do our program. We don't want no problems. We're not white. We're just Caucasian," right? Whatever they were saying. And as quick as you could blink an eye, man, these three individuals that were on the phones rushed from behind, and they grabbed these two guys and they got to slicing and dicing, right? This big fucking dude jumped up. All these other weirdos took off running, screaming, dry snitching, help! Right? The cop in the tower was kind of trying to look to see what was going on, but there was so much chaos because all these weirdos ran to one side of the day room, so they're paying attention to what's going on over there. These two dudes got butchered and massacred, man. They got drugged inside a cell door closed, and they got butchered beyond belief, right? One of them got his whole ear cut off. He was whacked. I mean, he came out of the cell like the Walking Dead, just mobbing like a zombie. The other one, I don't think he made it. To tell you the truth, he was out. They knocked him out. And these guys stood on him. You know, they stood on him. This big dude was not playing, right? He actually came running out of the cell and with a big old pedazo, man. Probably the biggest butcher knife I ever seen. Vato was running around like Michael Myers trying to whack fools. He was hitting fucking, these cheetos were running everywhere. These fucking weirdos were running everywhere. And I remember everyone laid it down in the proned out position, was just tripping. I never seen nothing like this to this day. You know, in prison, I've seen a lot of people. I've been involved in removals. I've seen a lot of people get removed. I've seen some pretty bad things. I've seen people get hit constantly on the yard. But this was like a free for all, a battle royal of chomos versus skinheads. And I'm gonna tell you, man, these skinheads weren't playing. Well, the cops come, they snatch people up, right? This big dude was smart enough, man, to get. All right, he moved all the way from the side of the day room he was on to up under the tower, so you couldn't really see him. So as the cops are coming in, they're arresting basically they're snatching up all the skinheads that were getting their money, you know. They're snatching up all the chiros, gurning them, you know, medical's there. It's chaos. They're telling everyone to report back to their cells. They're bringing the yard in. Everyone's still in the prone out position because they're not exactly knowing exactly who was involved. And this big dude pulled out that big pedazo, man, and he got to booking a couple of the woods, right? You're not white either, brother. I will forever have a different type of respect for skinheads. Not because I fear them or not because of what they did. They did what they felt was right to their own people. But because of the structure and the way they carry themselves, man, these guys don't play. These guys are not the type of individuals that you want to be around, man, and disrespect. You know, whatever their beliefs are, whatever they choose to do in life, is on them. You know, totally on them. But I know straight up, man, beyond a shadow of a doubt, man, it was a very vicious situation. Of course, everyone ended up getting snatched up, going to the oil. Vatos got new cases. That one dude's whole ear was gone. And that's just it. You know, like that's why I said, man, if you have any smut or you got a weird case, man, you go to prison, man, you will get butchered. It's only a matter of time, you know, and if you don't, you're able to slide by, you're able to slide by. I don't condone violence on any level, but that's the realities of prison. You go to prison, you think everything's cool, Holmes, and you got a weird case, and you're going to find out exactly what time it is, you know, depending upon where they put you, where they house you. Anyways, with that being said, that's just a little story on how the skinheads did slaughter, man. These folks slaughtered them. It was bad, man. These two, I don't know what these two dudes were thinking. They thought maybe they could insulate themselves and protect themselves with a whole fucking gaggle of weirdos. Them vatos ran quick. I'm not a bully. They didn't want no problem, right? And a lot of them got booked. There was sangre everywhere, man. That's facts. With that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming, man. And this is just a story. And it's actually knowledge you can't get in college. It's not to shock you or to bewilder you. It's to let you know whoever's in the game, man. When you want to play them games, you think you're going to go into prison and everything's going to be cool, man. Well, I don't got a bad case, so I ain't worried about it. Shit, homie. You know what I mean? Neither did those Woods. They got it too. If you ain't white, you ain't right. That's how that skinhead felt, right? With that being said, move smooth with a purpose, get everything that you want. Thumbs up or thumbs down, the collective clips, you know the get down, man. We're going to wear the crown. I'm going to continue to strive and struggle, man. I hope you guys like the new format, the way I'm bringing it to you, because I'm going to continue to bring something new every day, man. It just is what it is, man. Collective clips. Make sure that you tap in with GCTV over there, man. We're rocking, formerly Gunners Collective. And I appreciate all the gente and all the support. With that being said, I'm going to get the fuck up on out of here, man. And think about it. Let that marinate and resonate with you. You know, you got guys like Wes Watson that are going to come in here screaming that high-power wood shit. Man, this is what we did on the yard. This is what we did, man. Shit. What are them skins going to do when they get a hold of you? Tap in. I got a video for you guys tomorrow. Bang, bang. You already know what it is. Collective Clip Gang.